Hello. Thank you. It's a strong microphone, actually. Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here for lunch with all of you. It's especially pleasing to participate in this conference and having been invited by Evangeline Mitchell, someone who is doing an incredible job uplifting and preparing our youth for law school and beyond. It's also a neat kind of particularly feeling to be introduced by Sharon Frank. Many of you have admired her, certainly I have, on CNN, and her ability to still inspire through her coaching as well as through her natural order skills are quite amazing. I also want to thank my mother, who is actually here at the table of life. Thank you. Now you made her blush and she's turned red. It's great to, I travel all over the place, and it's just great to have her here. It's actually the first time she's accompanied me on a trip, and so it's good to have her close and take this with me. I want to start off by asking a question. How many of you, by a show of hands, have had an opportunity to enjoy the warm sun here in Houston? Yeah. I got to tell you, for me, it's just a tease because when I left Washington, D.C., it was 20 degrees colder. And after returning to that cold climate very soon tomorrow morning, comparatively, as I used to be in Seattle, Washington, when I take trips, when I come back, it always be to a rainy and gray setting, right? So I think the weather in Houston is amazing, especially this time of year. It's not too hot. It's sunny and bright and beautiful. Do you think Microsoft might consider moving its headquarters here? I believe that as diverse individuals aspiring to join the legal profession, it's vitally important to remember the past so you can better understand the present and prepare for the future. This will be here, you'll hear this resonating throughout persons talking to you. It's very important. Also, what you do while in law school plays a significant role in your future success as a lawyer. Build relationships and protect your reputation. And then finally, after you join our fine profession, it's so important to give back and pay it forward. A little bit about me and my history. Prior to law school, I had the unique opportunity to work for the nation's oldest predominantly African-American law firm in history and continuing practice. This is Hilton Marsh in Richmond, Virginia, which was founded in 1961. As a legal assistant at Hilton Marsh, did everything. But when you're 20 years old, still in college and clueless about the law, it means you're simply a gopher doing anything that's needed. At times, I literally ran to the courthouse before the clerk's office closed to try to get that ever-important motion filed before the deadline. And note, this is really telling my age because this is way before electronic filings were even thought of. Once I delivered beautiful flowers to one of the lawyer's girlfriends just hours before he proposed marriage. I remember driving my old beat-up car with no air conditioner during the hottest time of the year, July, in 102-degree weather, thinking, if I dropped this vase of flowers or they delivered mangled, one of two things could happen. Either I could lose my job or she could actually tell him no. That was pressure. The firm was founded by the late, great Oliver Hill and Henry L. Marsh III. A champion for equality in our country, Hill won his first civil rights case in 1940 in the city of Norfolk, Virginia, was going to pay African-American teachers the same as those who were not minorities. In 1951, Hill heard that the students at a high school in Farmville, Virginia, had walked out of their dilapidated school because the conditions were so poor. The subsequent lawsuit, Davis versus County School Board of Prince Edward County, became one of the 5 cases decided under the landmark decision mentioned by Judge Gilmore, Brown versus Board of Education. During these years, Hill's home life was under constant threat. He did not allow his son to answer the phone because so many threats were coming. The cross was even burned on his lawn. However, Hill persevered, and to date, the firm that Hill and Marsh built has filed more civil rights cases in Virginia than any other southern state. Hill witnessed this record before he lived to be 100, having passed in August of 2007. Hill's partner, Marsh, joined the fight against massive resistance to Virginia's announced policy toward the desegregation actions called for in the 1954 Brown decision. This led Marsh to litigate over 50 school desegregation cases. He also participated in Pauls versus Philip Morris. How many of those out there want to practice employment or labor employment law? By chance. Just as a little note, Pauls versus Philip Morris is the first U.S. legal case involving race discrimination in our country. Marsh became the city of Richmond's first African-American mayor in 1977, was subsequently served as a state senator and still is serving today. As you can imagine, the time I spent at this firm was stimulating and certainly helped shape my future aspirations as a lawyer. As I began my law practice, however, I was fortunate to have another unique opportunity. I worked at the oldest law firm in continuing practice in the nation, which is Rawlins Henderson, located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, founded in 1783. After William Law served as the first United States attorney in Pennsylvania, he actually told a person by the name of George Washington no when being offered to serve as our nation's first United States Attorney General. He declined because he felt such a commitment to his clients, to his private practice. Today, if you walk into the library of that firm, in case it's an actual letter authored by Rawls to his client, Alexander Hamilton, one of our founding fathers of this great United States. What is ironic about this experience is that at the time this firm was established, African Americans were not considered citizens with constitutional rights. Yet 2 centuries later, the law firm opened its doors to me, and I had my first experience as a law associate in those doors. Needless to say, I am thankful for having had that opportunity to be able to practice in such a historical place. In order to understand the present and prepare for the future, we must remember the past. We come together today in this very beautiful convention center at a unique moment in our country's history. Only a short time ago, we witnessed a momentous election for the presidency, an election that broke down barriers that had never been surmounted. At this period in our history, it seems to be a good time to pause and ask ourselves, what does this moment mean for those who aspire to be lawyers? And what does this moment mean for those who are still are lawyers? What does it mean for us in the legal profession as a whole? What does it mean for all of us who care about diversity in our country? The truth is, no matter your cultural background, we are all individuals with a sense of purpose. And as lawyers, we play a unique role in American society, a role that is profoundly exceptional because our country is so diverse. We need the law to hold us together and ensure opportunities for everyone. We can't afford not to. The uniqueness of the role lawyers play can also be seen by the study of the career of a person by the name of Alvin Brownstein. The offspring of America between Russian and Polish immigrants, Brownstein was an activist during the Civil Rights Movement. He happened to be a practicing attorney who got the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or his supporters out of jail on many occasions during the civil rights movements in the South. Brownstein was so deeply involved in providing legal support to Dr. King that he was on several occasions roughed up by Southern sheriffs and threatened by the Ku Klux Klan. He once stated, "I heard stories growing up from my parents about government abuse in Russia and in Poland, which made me want to do something for the underdog." Brownstein was among more than 600 lawyers, young lawyers, who traveled to southern states to litigate civil rights cases from 1964 to 1968. The group is called the Lawyers Constitutional Defense Committee, and the headquarters is in Jackson, Mississippi. Their mission? To to develop and implement strategies to address the rights of people in Mississippi denied the opportunity to vote. We come together today during a time in our nation's history when there exists a new opportunity to address diversity and inclusion in the legal community and throughout the legal profession. And as we move forward, it's important that as future warriors, you consider the history of our nation and remember the important roles that lawyers have played and continue to play. Let's talk about why you're in law school. While in law school, build relationships and protect your reputation. Your future classmates will be senators, CEOs, law firm partners. They will be people of power and influence. And the relationships you build and don't build will be long-lasting and have a tremendous impact on your career. So, on that point, I want to ask you by show of hands, how many of you have bumped into a childhood friend years later, and no matter how much they tell you about their grown-up story, you have this, this revert back to some incident that just sticks with you and just doesn't go away by showing hands? Yeah, we've all been there, right? All been there. Hopefully it wasn't the picking nose, but in my role at Microsoft, I've traveled in the United States and abroad. And on occasion, I run into classmates or two from law school. And without fail, I see a fellow alum, and immediately I go back to the days of yesteryear where I remember these persons at Wake Forest University School of Law. And as this former classmate or two and I catch up and share with each other whom we've stayed in contact with and whom we've seen over the years, every now and then a consistent name comes up. And when it does, it creates a moment of pause and a moment of concern. You see, that person while in law school was caught cheating on her final exams. And although disciplined, made to repeat a year, and eventually successfully graduated, the stigma attached to that person and that incident remained. The respect she had as a fellow student going through the same rigor of law school lessened and even lost. Was respect there. And you know what? People remember. People remember. You want to be someone who people respect, like, and trust. Protect your reputation. The reputation you build in law school will carry through your career. You should not only be concerned about your reputation amongst personal friends and associates, but also your online image. In this day and age, a single being search, and I work for Microsoft, so I'm not going to say the enemy at the moment, but a single being search by a potential employer, ally, or associate can change an opinion of you immediately. What may seem harmless to you now could greatly impact people's perception of you, and you want the perception of you to be positive. You will learn that in law school, when you get there, lawyers are held to a high ethical standard, and professional responsibility is taken very, very seriously. Build good habits early on. Once you've entered the legal profession, I believe it's important to give back and pay it forward. While law schools are graduating diverse groups of new attorneys, and they have been now for well over a decade. If you look at law schools today, roughly half the graduates are women. Approximately 22% of the graduating law students are minorities of people of color. While these numbers are encouraging, there's still more progress to be made. If you look at large law firms across the United States, only 19% of those individual partners are women. Only 6% of the partners of these firms are minorities or people of color. At the associate level, the numbers are getting better with women, but are still only 19% for minorities or people of color. When you consider that so-called racial minorities are now the emerging majority, and 9 out of 10 of the largest U.S. cities, these numbers are not impressive. We as a profession have much more work to do. Does this need to do more that inspired Microsoft to step forward in 2008 and implement things we hope will have a significant impact? By direction of my boss, our General Counsel Brad Smith, we launched initiatives that redirected the last 2% of legal fees earned by large law firms payable as a bonus, depending on achieving quantifiable progress in the area of improving diversity. And we said, we want to see progress in one of two ways. Either we want to see the percentage of diverse lawyers working on Microsoft matters grow by 2% over the preceding year, or we want to see the attorney population of the firm as a whole grow more than at least half a point every year. For example, if in the preceding year the firm had 20% of its Microsoft hours billed by women and minority attorneys, we want to see the next year 22%, and so on. And if the firm was 33% diverse a year ago, we hope that it would be at least 33.5% diverse a year later, and so forth. And we said to the firms that they could choose their method. Last year we gave our firms a third way to earn a bonus, which supported the importance we placed on transparency. We asked the question, are you as diverse as we are? And if you are, you don't have to get better until we get better, which we will. We said to our firms that currently 52% of our lawyers in the United States are either women or minorities. By the way, it's 54% now. So if that percentage is encompassing your lawyers in your law firm, then you met the mark and you meet the bonus. Now we recognize that if we're going to hold our large law firms accountable on improving diversity, we also need to hold ourselves accountable for their success. So we've actually attached the last 5% of our bonuses, the most senior lawyers at Microsoft, depending on the success of these firms. It's a pay-for-performance approach, which we're pretty proud of. Such programs place the responsibility of moving forward not only in the law firms we use, but us as a corporation as well. Microsoft understands that while we ask the law firms we use to increase their diversity efforts, we must do the same. We must do it with the same transparency as we require. So today in our legal department, 38% of our attorneys are women. 36% of our most senior attorneys are women. This is good, but we have more work to do. Currently, 25% of our attorneys are minorities or people of color, and 15% of our most senior attorneys are minorities or people of color. These percentages are improving, but there's still more progress to be made. Now, this is what Microsoft is doing, and you may be not greatest impact is on lawyers or persons who are already practicing. So you may be asking yourselves, well, what can I do? I'm not a lawyer yet. What can I do? Here are some suggestions. Be a resource to others who also want to go to law school. Don't hoard the information. It's theirs to be passed on, right? Mentor those who are coming behind you to achieve more things than you have, scholastically and in your communities. Last suggestion, volunteer your time and your expertise, because you're all experts in something. You may not have a title, but you have some knowledge. And volunteer time to those who are less fortunate. Remember, all of us have opportunities to give back and pay it forward, no matter where you are in life or in your career. As a diverse individual in our country, having opportunities that so many cannot even fathom, even being in this room or at this conference, you all have an obligation. All to examine concepts and prejudices which might not be obvious